Emily had just finished putting her 2-year-old son, Ben, to sleep. The little boy had been unusually fussy, making bedtime a challenge. Once he finally settled, Emily prepared a simple dinner and sank into her favorite chair, savoring a cup of tea and her favorite dessert. It was one of those rare quiet moments she looked forward to at the end of a long day. Just as she was starting to relax, her husband, Ryan, broke the silence. "So, my mom called earlier," he began casually. "She really wants to visit us and see Ben." Emily's heart sank. It wasn't the first time Ryan's mother, Karen, had come to stay, and the memory of her last visit was still fresh and unpleasant. That visit had happened shortly after Emily gave birth. Karen had arrived uninvited, turning what should have been a joyous homecoming into a stressful ordeal. Emily had been exhausted and overwhelmed, trying to care for a newborn while navigating Karen's constant interference and unsolicited advice. The visit had ended in a heated argument, leaving a lingering tension between the two women. Now, 2 years later, the idea of hosting Karen again felt like a storm brewing on the horizon. Ryan's next words didn't help. "She's already booked her tickets," he added, oblivious to Emily's growing discomfort. He hadn't even asked if Emily was ready to host his mother, he had simply informed her as if it were a done deal. Emily took a deep breath. She knew Karen lived far away, as did her own parents, so visits required planning. Still, the small one-bedroom apartment Emily and Ryan shared, a gift from her parents before their wedding, was hardly ideal for hosting guests, especially Karen. While the couple dreamed of upgrading to a 2-bedroom home one day, that goal felt far off. For now, Emily was still on maternity leave, and Ryan's income barely covered their expenses. Though their space was tight, Emily might have managed the visit if not for Karen's overbearing tendencies. She remembered all too well how Karen had rearranged the kitchen without asking, declared the microwave and coffee maker health hazards, and once even tried to throw out their microwave entirely. Emily had caught her just in time, rescuing it from the hallway. Emily knew she couldn't face another visit like the last one. This time, she resolved, things would be different. Karen's impending visit brought back a flood of memories Emily had tried to bury. 2 years ago, when Ben was just a newborn, Karen had arrived unannounced on the day Emily was discharged from the hospital. While Emily struggled to adjust to motherhood, Karen swooped in with her outdated advice and domineering ways. Emily recalled the moments vividly. Karen had brought stacks of old cloth diapers from decades ago, insisting they were better than modern disposables. "These worked perfectly fine for Ryan," she said, her tone implying that Emily's choices were inferior. When Emily hesitated, Karen handed her a jar of homemade ointment and declared, "This is all you need. None of that fancy store-bought nonsense." Trying to keep the peace, Emily had humored her mother-in-law's suggestions at first. But as the days went on, Karen's interference escalated. She criticized Emily's every decision, from how she swaddled Ben to the brand of baby formula she used. "You're going to spoil him," Karen would say whenever Emily picked up her crying baby. The final straw came when Karen threatened to report Emily to child services for not following her advice, claiming, "I'm only trying to protect my grandson." What should have been a time of joy and bonding had turned into a nightmare. After a particularly explosive argument, Ryan had finally stepped in. He packed Karen's bags and sent her home, telling her firmly that she had overstepped. 4 months afterward, Karen and Emily didn't speak. Slowly, they began to rebuild their relationship through video calls and shared photos of Ben, but Emily always kept her guard up. Now, as Karen's new visit loomed, Emily decided she wouldn't let history repeat itself. This time, she resolved to set boundaries. "If she's coming," Emily told Ryan that night, "she's staying in a hotel. She can visit during the day and play with Ben, but she's not staying here overnight." Ryan looked taken aback. "She's coming all this way to see us, where else is she supposed to stay?" he argued. Emily's patience snapped. "She's not staying here, Ryan. This is my apartment, and I won't have her turning our home upside down again. You need to understand why I feel this way." Ryan stared at Emily, clearly upset by her refusal. It's not just your apartment, Emily, he said, his voice rising slightly. We're a family, and this is our home. My mom has every right to stay here if she wants to visit her grandson. Emily folded her arms, her voice calm but firm. Ryan, let's not pretend. My parents bought this apartment for me before we even got married. You didn't contribute a dime toward it. And when your mom comes, it's not just a visit, it's chaos. She rearranges everything, throws out things she doesn't like, and acts like this is her house. I won't go through that again. Ryan's jaw tightened, and he looked away, clearly uncomfortable. Emily's words had hit a nerve, but she wasn't backing down. If your mom wants to visit, fine. She can stay at a hotel or rent a short-term apartment. That way, she can spend time with Ben, and we'll still have our space. But how am I supposed to tell her that? Ryan asked, his frustration evident. She'll be offended. She'll think we're pushing her away. Emily sighed, trying to maintain her composure. Ryan, I'm not trying to push her away. I'm trying to protect our family. You've seen what happens when she stays here. It's not good for us, and it's definitely not good for Ben to see us stressed and arguing. This is about boundaries, not rejection. Ryan didn't respond immediately. He slumped into a chair, running his hand through his hair. You don't understand. She's my mom. She helped raise me. She just wants to help, even if her ways are outdated. Emily softened her tone, sensing his internal struggle. Ryan, I get that you love your mom. I respect that, and I want Ben to have a relationship with her. But that doesn't mean we have to let her take over our home. You need to talk to her and explain this. It's the only way we can make this work. The room fell silent as Ryan wrestled with his feelings. Emily knew it wasn't easy for him to stand up to Karen, but she also knew that this was a battle worth fighting. Finally, Ryan nodded reluctantly. All right. I'll talk to her, he said quietly. But don't expect her to take it well. When Ryan finally called his mother to break the news, Emily could hear the conversation from the next room. She didn't need to hear Karen's exact words to know the talk wasn't going well. Ryan's strained tone and repeated attempts to explain himself were enough of a clue. But why can't I stay with you? Karen's voice was loud enough to carry through the phone. I'm coming to see my grandson, not to stay in some cold, impersonal hotel. I'm family. Mom, it's not about that, Ryan said, trying to calm her down. We just think it'll be easier for everyone if you stay somewhere nearby. That way, you'll have your own space to relax, and we won't all feel cramped in the apartment. Cramped? You've had me stay there before. Karen snapped. I didn't hear any complaints then. Is this Emily's idea? It is, isn't it? I bet she doesn't want me there. She's always been so controlling. Ryan winced, glancing toward the room where Emily sat, pretending not to hear. Mom, this isn't about Emily. It's about making things comfortable for everyone, including you. Look, we've even found a nice hotel nearby. I don't care about the hotel. Karen cut him off. I'm your mother, Ryan. You should be standing up for me, not letting her push me out. I raised you better than this. The call ended with Karen angrily hanging up, leaving Ryan visibly drained. He walked into the living room and slumped onto the couch, rubbing his temples. She's not happy, he said, stating the obvious. Emily sat down beside him, placing a hand on his knee. I heard, she admitted softly. I know it's hard, but you did the right thing. We need this boundary if we're going to have any peace. She thinks I'm choosing you over her, Ryan said, his voice heavy with guilt. I don't know how to make her understand it's not about that. Emily sighed, feeling a pang of sympathy for him. Maybe she'll come around once she's here and sees how much better it is this way. But Ryan, you can't let her guilt you into changing your mind. This is about what's best for our family. Ryan nodded, though he still seemed troubled. I'll call her again tomorrow and try to smooth things over, he said. Let's just hope she doesn't cancel her trip altogether. The day Karen arrived, Emily braced herself for the worst. Ryan had arranged to pick her up from the airport and bring her directly to the hotel. Emily stayed home with Ben, ensuring the apartment was tidy and ready for Karen's inevitable visit later in the day. When the doorbell rang an hour after Ryan left, Emily's heart sank. She opened the door to find Karen standing there with her suitcase, Ryan trailing behind her with a sheepish look. "Hi, Emily," Karen said, her tone dripping with forced sweetness. "I thought I'd drop by before settling into the hotel. You know, see my grandson first thing." Without waiting for a response, she swept past Emily and into the apartment. Emily exchanged a quick glance with Ryan, who gave her an apologetic shrug. Closing the door, she took a deep breath and followed Karen into the living room, where Ben was playing with his blocks. "Oh, there's my little man," Karen exclaimed, crouching down to greet Ben. The boy looked up curiously before offering a shy smile. Karen immediately began peppering him with questions, ignoring Emily's attempts to join the conversation. It wasn't long before Karen's subtle jabs began. "This apartment is smaller than I remembered," she said, looking around critically. "Must feel cramped with a toddler. Have you thought about upgrading yet?" Emily clenched her jaw but forced a polite smile. "We're comfortable here for now," she replied evenly. "When the time is right, we'll look into a bigger place." Karen's gaze shifted to the kitchen. "Still have that microwave, I see," she said pointedly. "You know those things are terrible for your health. I really think you should get rid of it." Emily had been prepared for this. "It works perfectly fine for us," she said firmly. "Ben's growing up just fine with it here." Karen raised an eyebrow but didn't press the issue. Instead, she turned to Ryan. "Well, I suppose I should head to the hotel soon," she said with exaggerated disappointment. "Though it does feel strange not staying here with my family." Ryan hesitated, glancing at Emily before replying. "Mom, you'll be more comfortable at the hotel. It's a nice one, and it's close by. We'll see you every day, you won't miss a thing." Karen sighed dramatically, as if the arrangement were an enormous burden. "Fine, if that's how it has to be," she said, gathering her things. "But don't forget, family is about being together, not apart." As the door closed behind her, Emily exhaled deeply. "Well, that went about as well as I expected," she muttered. Ryan gave her a small smile. "You held your ground. That's all that matters." Karen's visit continued over the next few days, filled with a mixture of polite moments and underlying tension. True to her word, Emily allowed Karen to spend time with Ben, but only during scheduled visits. Karen would arrive late in the morning, play with Ben, and have tea with the couple before heading back to her hotel in the evening. At first, Karen made her discontent clear with subtle remarks. "It's such a shame to have to leave at night," she said one evening, sighing loudly as she packed up her belongings. "When I'm here, I feel like I'm part of this family. At the hotel, I'm just a guest." Emily smiled tightly, refusing to take the bait. "We appreciate you coming, Karen," she said evenly. "Ben loves spending time with you." Still, Karen's behavior didn't escalate the way Emily had feared. Perhaps it was the hotel arrangement giving her less control, or perhaps she'd realized she wouldn't win this battle. Either way, by the third day, Karen's attitude softened slightly. One evening, while Ryan was putting Ben to bed, Karen sat across from Emily at the kitchen table. "You know, Emily," she began, her tone less sharp than usual, "I know I can be a little overwhelming at times. But I only want what's best for Ryan and Ben." Emily met her gaze and nodded. "I understand that, Karen. And I know you mean well. But Ryan and I need to make decisions that work for our family. Having you stay in the hotel has actually made things a lot smoother for all of us. I hope you can see that." Karen was quiet for a moment, then gave a reluctant nod. "I suppose there's some truth to that," she admitted. The next day, Karen returned to the airport, and Ryan came home visibly relieved. Well, that's over, he said, dropping onto the couch. Emily sat beside him and smiled. I think it actually went better than I expected. Ryan chuckled. Better than I expected too. And you were right about setting boundaries. I didn't think it would work, but it did. Emily leaned against him, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in weeks. It wasn't easy, she admitted, but it was worth it. The couple spent the evening quietly, grateful for the resolution they had reached. The visit had been a test of their relationship, and while it wasn't perfect, they had emerged stronger for it. Most importantly, they had learned how to protect their family's peace without letting outside pressures dictate their lives.